Imagine an airy workspace that feels like a modern oasis, or a cafe that's cosy and inviting, or a vibrant shopfront that draws customers in. Whatever space you're dreaming up, the IKEA Business Network is here to help you create a better everyday life at work. Join the IKEA Business Network for free and instantly access benefits including a one-on-one with an interior designer, member discounts and perks for your staff and family. So go on, join the IKEA Business Network now at ikea.com.au/business.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of First Act, a podcast from Koshy's Business Builders. My name is Adam Bubb, I work at Pinstripe Media, and my first job was at a video store. I just feel so old saying that. Remember those?
Video stores were awesome. I'm Cec Busby and I'm the editor of Koshy's Business Builders, which is Australia's home of small business news, feature stories, expert advice, you name it. If it's about small business, we write about it. And my first job, if you don't count, like I did a lot of commercials and stuff when I was a kid, so if you don't count them, my first job was probably after acting school, graduating. I went to work for Riverina Theatre Company and I was in The Elephant Man and I
my
played
gosh.
like a circusy freak kind of character. So I had to learn how to eat fire, breathe fire, rub fire all over my body, juggle. But there you go. That's enough about me.
You're a woman of many talents, Cec. I did not know you were a child star, but I did know that you're a very good voiceover artist. So that's a fun fact about you as well.
Thank you. We're actually your hosts for the show.
We're not just having a chat.
Yes, we're just
hosts.
chit-chatting. And every couple of weeks we take a deep dive into the origin stories of Australia's most innovative entrepreneurs, and we have another one here for you today.
Whether you're an entrepreneur yourself or you're simply curious about people with great ideas and backstories, our goal at First Act is to have you feeling heaps awesome every show.
I see what you did there. See, the heaps awesome is something that is very much what our next guest's product is all about. Andy Miller is the CEO and co-founder of award-winning alcohol-free brand Heaps Normal. Now, Andy's got a background in strategy and comms and marketing, but it was his passion for beer that kind of led him to join forces with a brewer and a pro surfer to launch their booze-free brews in mid-2020.
Look, it's wild to think that Heaps Normal has only been around since then, because it's now stocked in thousands of Aussie pubs, supermarkets and bottle-os and our very own fridges at home. Andy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Cec. It's cool to be chatting with you.
Well, Andy, it's great to have you on the line. I want to know, what does an average day look like for you as CEO of Heaps Normal? Do you start the day with a beer?
I can't say that's my daily ritual, but we have certainly tested the limits of different non-alcoholic beer occasions.
Breakfast beer. Surely,
yeah, we made a breakfast beer recently, actually, which was a stout that we thought went pretty well with pancakes and muesli and wheat bix. Yeah, that's it's not a habit that we like to get into. I choose a coffee for my morning drink.
I think it's probably most of our morning drinks is a tea or a coffee.
Yeah.
Unless it's been a very big night and then maybe there is a beer.
Yeah, maybe.
So, Andy, one of the things about Heaps Normal is you're not like quite a lot of other non-alcoholic brands that are very much, toe the line about sobriety. Heaps Normal looks at non-alcoholic drinks in a different way. Why is that?
I think the bottom line is we think to change drinking culture, it's got to be fun. Who doesn't want to go to a good party? I think that's sort of what really kind of motivates us all, is that opportunity to socialize and have fun and not take ourselves too seriously. And so that's kind of the business that we've built. We want to make, first and foremost, we want to make it fun. And we want to have a lot of fun building the business and creating these products ourselves. So play and fun is sort of really central to everything that we do at Heaps Normal.
Mm. So we've kind of skipped right ahead to the Heaps Normal part of your journey, but if for a moment we could just maybe take a step back and look at that marketing and strategy brain of yours. Where did that come from? Like, as a teenager, were you kind of always coming up with big schemes?
As a youngster, I had two career goals. One was to become an animated character. My hero at the time, Inspector Gadget.
Oh,
Go,
what a good,
Gadget,
Yeah,
go!
what a life goal. Honestly, there's still time, Andy.
yeah. I sort of over the course of growing up, I suppose, I came to the conclusion that that was probably an unrealistic career goal. And my other one was I really wanted, I still do, I've always wanted to work in medicine and to be a doctor. But I didn't study as hard as I should have at school. And at the end of high school, was I was studying and studying something completely different. And someone tapped me on the shoulder, a mentor of mine, and said, "Oh, you can seem kind of creative. Maybe you should think about doing advertising or marketing." And it wasn't something that I'd really considered before. This idea of having a fun job or a fun career, I'd always sort of had these other focuses, and so that was a new way of thinking for me, and I that got me interested in this whole area of advertising and creativity and marketing. And yeah, I started my own magazine up in Brisbane that we published, and we photographed and interviewed artists and fashion designers and all sorts of people that really kind of inspired us. And then I won a radio competition with Triple J, which was a competition to share stories of funny shit that you've done. And mine was a story about traveling around the world in my pajamas. And so I won that competition and became went on this trip, and then I came back and ended up shooting live music for Triple J for a few years before a marketing role came up with them, and I jumped at the chance to move to Sydney and work in that role.
That's so interesting because you would have learned so much about an audience that of people who you probably target now with Heaps Normal. You would have like learned on the ground with Triple J like how to speak to that audience, what it is they like, branding. Like out of that time, like what were your kind of your big learnings from that experience?
It was a dream job for a young early 20 something year old aspiring marketer. I learned a lot about working with the announcers to come up with fun on air creative or messaging or promotions or campaigns, I suppose, in some respect. What worked, what kind of got people interested, what made great content. And I think for me, still today, that's one of the lenses that I'm looking at our marketing efforts through. We don't really want to create marketing in the traditional sense of the word. We genuinely try to create stories, tell better stories, and create really interesting, entertaining content that is based on this sort of editorial approach of things that are inherently true, not marketing bullshit. Like, you want to leverage stuff that is actually true about your brand and true beliefs and genuine opinions and views that you have on the world, and then turn them into like fun, entertaining, editorial style content and narratives and stories, rather than just sort of glossy kind of like salesy product messages all the time.
Hmm. Yeah, I was going to ask you how much, because FMCG and music seem poles apart, but when you come down to trying to market it, it is all about that storytelling rather than, trying to slam a brand down with someone's throat.
Yeah, that's been a common thread as well. There's a lot of things in my work history that seem to be quite different from each other, but one of those common threads is this storytelling and the importance of that. Whether it's been working with Greenpeace on environmental storytelling and campaigns, or with Triple J and SBS, in the more traditional kind of editorial sense, and then now and then with brands, through strategy and culture change.
Yeah. Do you have any campaigns from those times, say, when you're working with Greenpeace, that you're were particular highlights for you or that you're very proud of?
I think one of the most inspiring campaigns that I had a chance to work on while at Greenpeace was with one of my dearest friends to this day, the Toxics campaign, where it was all about, taking on fast fashion and highlighting, I think, the environmental impact of this kind of new consumer behavior and being driven by some of these sort of big fast fashion houses. I guess similar to non-alc beer, right? It's pretty easy to take an issue like that and have quite an earnest message. And the campaign was, just inherently creative and, get all about kind of grabbing people's attention in a fun way and galvanizing a community behind everyone sort of getting out there and having fun together. So we created photo opportunities with mannequins, and created merchandising windows that were just a little bit, offbeat and oddball, that, grabbed people's attention and sort of delivered the message in a way that was just fun and not jamming this sort of preachy message down people's throats.
Was there anything in that time, I mean, kind of going from a campaign like that where, you've got like the height of creativity, you got a lot of room to play. Was there any times that were lowlights for you? Any campaigns or any moments where you're just like, I'm not getting to play here?
I think maybe bringing it back to the present all the time. I think it's a constant battle. I think just to try and give this impression that it's all just, colored ball pits and slippery slides in the office and, all you can eat buffets, in startup land is just an absolute fallacy. And even I think in a really close knit team where, with a really kind of nice, culture of care, like I think we have at Heaps Normal, there's still days where people feel like massively burned out. Like, we need to, constantly remind ourselves of why are we here? What is what is it that's actually kind of motivating us to get out of bed every day? Because it's really easy to get distracted and brought into, just grinding like on something, day to day. So we do try and remind each other every now and again of, what actually is it that we're getting out of bed for that motivates us to turn up and put so much of our time into this project, this mission.
Heaps Normal is not your first sort of foray into the beer arena. You used to work for Young Henry's, yeah, as the head of marketing. What did you learn from that experience that you've taken with you to Heaps Normal?
I was really lucky to be part of that business really early on, and to have a seat at the table in the leadership room where a lot of these business decisions were being made. So it wasn't really just a marketing role in a much bigger company. It was this really highly creative group of people sitting around a table, just coming up with, fun ideas. And it taught me a lot about what was required, to be a successful beer company. I learned a lot about making beer at the same time. And it was also a really, really kind of interesting and fun group of people to sort of learn alongside, experimenting with different ways of creating a culturally relevant brand. So yeah, it was a really formative time, and I took a lot from my time there and put that into the kind of approach that we've taken to building Heaps Normal. I think they're very different businesses, but definitely really valuable experience.
And I guess when we kind of look at the chronology of where Heaps Normal comes from, the seed of that idea comes during that time, that era of your life. Can you kind of take me through that mythology? And I have read that the idea started out over some beers, which is always a good place for a startup to begin.
Yeah, with a few mates, we all came together and we had this sort of idea of doing something in the non-alc space. And so we would catch up every now and again over a few beers, ironically. And in the course of that discussion, it just became obvious that for a few of us that drinking had become the main event. And we'd forgotten the real reason why we, came together, for whether it was, the kind of occasion, the meeting point, for us as a kind of group of mates that were riffing on ideas, or whether it was the 5 p.m. Knockoff beer, with your work colleagues, there was this sense amongst us that it had just become a habit, and the drink had become the main event rather than that sort of being in the background of something else interesting that was happening. Whether you're seeing, watching a gig and happen to be enjoying a beer, or whether you're at a party, sharing kind of stories with your mates, then and having a drink or a meal, or whatever it is, sitting around the dinner table with your family and having a glass of wine or something. It just felt like alcohol had sort of permeated every single part of our lives and had become just a habit. When we're sad, we drink, and when we're happy, we drink, and when we need to distract ourselves, we drink. That was the kind of the moment, I think, that we realized that we needed a genuine option, and we needed that to be a brand that wasn't preaching, because we ourselves didn't identify as sober. We didn't want to give up alcohol, but we just wanted a genuine option that we could turn to when we wanted to cut back or take a night off, or spread our drinks out so we could drive home later, or whatever it was. I think in different people, we realized the three of us all had different reasons, and we thought that there were probably other people out there, at least a few like us, who didn't identify as sober, but wanted to cut back for their own reasons. And it turned out that there were more people than we initially thought.
It puts it in so much perspective when you talk about how you're interested in medicine and health, and then there is this health benefit of detaching like alcohol from every single situation, of going, hey, right, maybe I'm not going to cut it out completely, but I'm going to be very mindful about it. And that's very much your approach now. Do you think that element, the health element, has been a driving force for you?
Yeah, I definitely an underlying driver for me personally. Whether it's been Greenpeace or other moments in my career, I've always tried, when I've had the opportunity, I've gravitated towards doing something and putting my energy into something that's good for the world, not in a preachy way, just in a it's kind of more fulfilling if you feel like you're contributing something positive. And the same was also true with Young Henrys, I think. Contributing something positive in the sense of contributing to culture and contributing to community, particularly the community of Newtown and that sort of thing. And Heaps Normal, from a different perspective, we're not anti-alcohol, as I think we've said in the past, but we wanted to create a genuine option, a genuine choice. And yeah, a big driver of that choice was being confident and feeling good about what we were putting out into the world being something that was having a genuinely positive impact on our community.
We'll be back with more from Andy Miller after this short break.
And we're back with Andy Miller from Heaps Normal. Now, Andy, it's not every day a group of mates get together and go, let's try and create a non-alcoholic beer that's that's going to change people's minds and their habits. I hear there was a lot of brewing going on in lockdown in 2020. How did you guys land on the right formula, especially during that like very weird moment in time?
It was a really weird time, and my mates and I that were working on building Heaps Normal, we were all separated in different states during lockdown. And Benny, our brewer, he was in his tiny apartment in Bondi, brewing up these samples in old long neck beer bottles using his home kettle. And during one relaxation of the restrictions, managed to visit him and sort of see all these bottles lined up along the wall fermenting. And yeah, so we tasted those, and definitely those initial batches that we created in Benny's kitchen were required a bit of imagination, that we would be able to create something that was yummy at the end of the day. But it definitely kind of inspired us to keep trialing and keep testing different things, and we gave us the belief early on that we could definitely solve this challenge.
At the same time, there was probably kind of this strange dichotomy going on because everyone's at home locked down and alcohol consumption went through the roof. But then also bubbling away at the same time was this whole kind of non-alcohol trend as well, this movement towards non-alcoholic beverages. So did you know that Heaps Normal was going to land on the right side of that trend and that that trend was here to stay, or you didn't really care?
Yeah, look, I think we all questioned a lot of our habits and lifestyle choices during that time, right? Not just alcohol. It was, we were like forced to think about how much screen time we were consuming, and our diets when we weren't moving as much, and mental health when we weren't leaving the house for days on end. So yeah, alcohol was one of those big things I think that people started to question what the right amount was, particularly when you're not able to sort of be out and about, which makes a big difference for what that how that affects us all. The stats as well show that a lot of people who did reduce their alcohol consumption during lockdown, I think it was 2/3 of people who reduced their alcohol consumption during lockdown attributed non-alcoholic options to being the thing that drove that. We didn't start Heaps Normal knowing that it was going to be this hugely successful venture. We started it from the point of view of wanting to solve a personal problem, or a personal challenge, I should say, that that we thought was worth solving, and then we thought there might be a few other people out there who would like a solution to that as well. Just having a beer that felt like a normal fun kind of beer brand that you could take to a party, and you didn't have to have that conversation of why are you not drinking. We didn't know if it was going to be profitable, right? We didn't know if there was an audience for this. We started a no, it was very scary because we started a non-alcoholic beer company in the middle of lockdown with an unknown brand and a summer beer style during winter. The thing that really kind of gave us a bit of momentum at the start was just that fear that we would launch this and no one would know about it.
So once you had your product ready to go, ready to launch, and to kind of leap into the unknown, how did you find your first believers? Your tribe of people that were really going to be your big brand advocates and get the word out.
Yeah, from our point of view, the people on the front lines of drinking culture are bartenders and artists. In either of those roles, if you're touring, day in day out, you're on the road in venues, where alcohol served, or you're in fact behind the bar serving alcohol and chatting to locals, and you're hanging out with your colleagues after work at sort of late in the evening. If you say no to a drink, you're not just saying no to the drink, you're saying no to that social engagement, that you're saying no to the person, that offer from that person. So it can be quite difficult, I think, to say no. And so I think we wanted to start there. Benny moved his trials from brown bottles in his kitchen to we did a more commercial trial of beer and put some in cans, and then we shared these blank cans with some of the artists and bartenders and other brewers in our network, and we just gave it to them and asked them what they thought. We just presented it as a beer. Here's a new beer. What do you think about it? Everybody liked it, which is the first sort of great starting point. And then we asked them how much alcohol they thought was in it, and 9 out of 10 of them said that they thought it was between 3% and 4% alcohol, which puts it in the spectrum of a mid-strength beer. So that was the point where we realized that okay, I think we're onto something here, and gave us the energy to keep going.
Mm. So you go, right, we're on to something, you've done your trial cans, then how do you go about financing the actual production to get Heaps Normal out into the venues?
We had a little bit of startup capital from Geordie, who is a professional surfer and one of the, well, he was the first believer in our group, and we then did a tech accelerator, believe it or not, called StartMate.
Oh yes, we know Startmate well.
Yeah, that was a funny experience in itself, just going through the process of being accepted into StartMate. I contacted a really good friend of mine who was connected with that group and said, we've had this recommended to us by a few people. Should we apply? And he said, 1,000% yes. You won't get in, but you should apply. He said it'll be good for honing your pitch and understanding how to talk about your business better. So we thought that'd be a good use of energy, and we applied and we went through all of these processes. And at each gate, we thought, oh look, that was really useful. We've really kind of refined our message, and we understand a lot more about where we want to focus our business, just having spoken with some of these interesting mentors and people who were part of that process. And we went through all the way and got accepted. And then that turned out, that 12-week program turned out to be just a game-changing milestone in the development of our business, because it exposed us to other really ambitious founders and entrepreneurs and business owners, and a group of mentors, and what would become like a lot of our investors who invested in our first raise and our second raise as well. So yeah, it gave us a really amazing foundation, and I don't think without that we would be where we are now.
Well, I hope the Startmate team are listening. Because you're just giving them the best testimonial there is. At what point did you guys go from quitting your day jobs, or and going, this is real, this is happening, like this is going to be, this is our lives now?
Yeah, it was a staggered approach. We didn't all jump at once. I was the first one to jump because I was already consulting, and so that was a bit more flexible. And during COVID, a bit of that work dried up. And the silver lining, I think, of that time, which in a strange way, made it easier in some ways, was that because a lot of that consulting work dried up during COVID, I was eligible for some of the JobKeeper style allowances that from the government, and that made that transition just a little bit easier to going from paid work to non-paid full-time investment in kind of starting a new business. So yeah, that was just fortunate timing in that sense, and a bit of a silver lining of what was otherwise a pretty horrible situation.
But then the brand has grown pretty quickly since those early days. I mean, what have been the main challenges for you, like both personally and as someone in charge of Heaps Normal, in scaling so quickly?
There's so many challenges every single day. I think one of the major ones was staying focused, and it sounds so generic in terms of the advice, but I can't underscore how important it is, and we learned it firsthand. I think it's more important than you think it is, even if you are aware of the benefits of focus. And I think part of it was by design for us, and part of it was on an ongoing reminder that we need to come back to keeping things focused, and not getting too distracted by all of the different things that we could solve, that were available to us to solve, because that's a never-ending list. I guess the best example of focus in our business was starting with one product and keeping one product for the first 18 months that we were in business. And that's pretty unheard of for a drinks brand, I guess aside from someone like Red Bull or Coke who did that for a long time. But certainly for a young independent beer company, it's not the playbook that you would normally see. But it allowed us to put a lot of our energy into building the brand and telling stories like we were talking about earlier, and reduced the complexity of our business significantly. So there were still daily challenges around, particularly with a physical product of, how do we move this product around the country, warehousing and, production challenges remotely because we were brewing this product in another state. So there were a lot of those challenges, but being able to focus on one product, reduced the complexity and allowed us to focus on other really key challenges in growing our business, like recruiting the right team and spending time on, finding those right people and finding the funding and the investors and first believers to support our growth. And then sort of the strategy for, how are we going to cut through what is going to be unique about Heaps Normal, and what's our kind of, how are we going to bring that product and brand to life in a way that's exciting for other people.
And something else that you did during that whole process as well is you applied to be a B Corp, and Heaps Normal is now a B Corp. You donate part of your annual revenue to social and environmental causes, but becoming a B Corp is not a simple process. There's so many hoops and steps that you have to take and jump through. So why was it important to you that Heaps Normal be a B Corp?
We've always seen Heaps Normal as an opportunity to demonstrate that business can be a force for good, and not just big business. I think there's this tension or this pull to go, look, starting a business is hard enough. Like, we don't need to create all of these other hurdles for ourselves from day one. And, as you and your listeners would probably know, most businesses fail. Most businesses don't survive their first couple of years. So, why would you try and do that from the very beginning? But we really kind of, I guess it was really, really important to us that we did this from day one. And in a way, like, again, we didn't want to, it wasn't about preaching about it, but we just wanted to do it. We just wanted to walk the walk and show that no matter what size of business you are, you can actually have a positive impact on your community. And better still, we see that as the fundamental role of business that maybe has been forgotten over time, that business is there to serve a community, not to just extract value from it endlessly. And so, long way around saying, we started the B Corp journey from day one of the business, trying to set up processes and systems that we knew would contribute to eventually being able to get that certification. So it was a 2 or 3 year journey to get that certification, but absolutely worth it. And the other thing we did from day one, which we don't often talk a lot about, is we still do, we donate 2% of all revenue through the business. So, that's not a profit share. That's, every time we sell a can of beer, since the very first can, we give 2% of the revenue to environmental and social causes and NGOs who are, doing work to have an impact on, broadly equality and climate change. And they're the things that we think, we want to both take responsibility for as a business, and also, to try and contribute back to in our community.
Yeah, that's such an important point, because purpose, purpose is such a it's an emotional thing as well that people connect with. That you're anyone that's buying Heaps Normal beer can really feel good about themselves as well, knowing that they're contributing to something really good. We've got time for one last question, and I think this does sort of loop in with that purpose kind of feeling. Is your mission? How do you feel it has changed from 2020, which isn't really that long ago, to now? Is Heaps Normal yet?
That's a question that we're asking ourselves regularly. I think we've most of the time, got our blinkers on, just trying to do great work and work with our team to come up with, the next kind of fun beer style or story that we want to tell. But the feedback that comes through is sort of what keeps us going. And I think hearing friends say, you're everywhere, we see you at all the places that we're going, is sort of, gives us that energy that we are having that impact. I think, for the record, I don't feel like we're everywhere yet. And but I think what it tells us is that, you know, we are in the same places that our people are, and that's the most important thing for us. You know, we don't want to be everywhere. We want to be in the right places, and the right places are where our people are, the people that share our view on the world, and that you know, find the same things important as what we do. So that's really encouraging. And you know, the mission has always been to change drinking culture. It still is. I think we've seen a massive change in drinking culture in Australia and elsewhere in the world over the last few years. I think it's hugely positive. I think we've managed, along with other, you know, really great independent non-alc producers, we've managed to, I think, demonstrate to a lot of the bigger beverage companies that that there is a demand for non-alc, and there is, you know, it's not a trend or a fad, that there's a genuine, this is the, you know, genuine kind of shift in consumer behavior and taste, and isn't, you know, it's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Andy, that's a great point for us to probably finish off, as much as we'd love to chat with you all day about all things about your first act and Heaps Normal. But you've given us so much to think about, and I'm sure everyone listening has gotten a lot out of this conversation. So thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to see what you and the Heaps Normal crew brew up next.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Sess.
Thank you. You're most welcome. And thank you to our First Act listeners. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll be back with another episode in a couple of weeks, where we'll chat with another fantastic, fascinating entrepreneur. See you next time.
Bye.